everybody, welcome to Obscure Animation, and this is a show where we talk about indie smaller releases in the animated films. And today I'm really excited because we're talking about a film that really went under the radar last year, and I don't think it deserved to. It's called Poupelle of Chimney Town, and I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford is here.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so excited to talk with you about this film. And speaking of it under the radar, Rachel, I'm embarrassed to say I hadn't heard about it until you pitched it for this podcast. And typically I'm game. So because you know what you're talking about. And so anyway, I was not disappointed.
Well, the only reason I heard about it is because the distributor actually sent me a DVD. I think it's
okay. You got a screener.
Yeah. They sent me a Blu-ray DVD, and they actually sent me two this week. And a lot of times I don't have time to watch them, but this one I did watch because I thought it looked the animation on the cover looked very appealing to me, and I knew it had premiered at Animation's Film the year, I don't know, the year before I went.
Before you went, okay.
Yeah, in because it was released in 2020 in Japan, so I think it was before that it was at Animation's Film.
Gotcha.
And our friend Cameron, he talked about it a lot.
Oh, okay.
On the show. Yeah. And it kind of makes me wonder that, like when we were growing up way back, in the 70s and 80s for me, there really weren't that many animated films to see. I mean, there's some years where you had zero animated films, none. And then where you had 2, 3, if you watched, something like Totoro or something like that, if you watched international films, there'd be a few more, Akira, something like that. But you'd have just so little, so that the ones you had, even if they were flawed, like say an Oliver and Company or something like that, that was all you had.
Nothing.
Yeah, and so you kind of appreciated them more. And I kind of wonder if we just have too many movies, because something like this movie should not have gone unnoticed, unappreciated. This is a good movie.
A really well-made one, really, really visually stunning. Yeah, I think you bring up a really excellent point. I think a combination of things, at least in America, and I want to get your take on this too, Rachel, but clearly now there is no shortage, given, all the streaming options and the output that's happening, although sometimes they're few and far between. Like, thankfully, there's still some screenings of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Yeah, that's true.
But really, we're kind of in a dead zone right now, in theaters for an animated film. But then a film that's like this, that's so stunning, it seems like often there's like a Fathom Events or something, that will show it for two nights. And if you're not paying attention, you miss it. And it's a shame. I'm not sure if I don't know if this played at our local art house theater.
Yeah, our local art house is pretty good about getting this indie animation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure if I just again didn't have my head in the game. Stuff was so weird with COVID, kind of like all the above. But I was just like, as I was watching, just like, how did I miss this? I wish I'd seen it on the big screen.
It's a good point that you make, because Matt Singer, columnist, he just had a tweet kind of explode where he was talking about how there wasn't anything to take his children, children to the theater from December through April. And I don't know if maybe the studios first thought that something like Shazam or something like Ant-Man would be more family friendly than they ended up being. I don't know if that was kind of their thought process, but it is really weird that there was nothing for families. That bring a good point, because there was nothing except for Puss in Boots and maybe Avatar but I don't know if you take little
You
kids
know,
to
I don't know
that.
if little kids are gonna be into that, you know, maybe a little
Hmm.
older, but yeah. So
Yeah,
interesting.
it's interesting
Yeah.
because for a long time there was either the like a Lego movie would I feel like those were usually in February, and then there was like the Paddington, I think. I feel like those were in like
Yeah.
February. So there was some really good family films in this time of year, but yeah, it's very strange. Very,
It's
very strange.
weird.
So, and maybe it's just a question of there's not too many movies, but just getting these quality films, get eyeballs on them is really hard,
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there was Little Nicholas too, which was so good. But I
Little
mean, I don't
Nicholas
even know
was
how
just
many theaters that played
adorable.
in. Yeah,
Yeah. And again, I don't know how well it would have necessarily played to a mainstream American audience, but it was just the
it was so
cutest
good.
movie. I know.
Yeah.
You think that it would really like the art house crowd would eat it up.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know. But then how do you, it feels like if you don't have a studio like A24 and maybe a little bit less G Kids, I feel like they were really strong for a long time and then their power is kind of fading, G Kids. But
Yeah.
but if you don't have one of them, if you're with, I mean, that's why Your Name didn't get like a quality Oscar campaign because they were with Funimation, I think, and it just, just doesn't have the same, as G Kids or Apple
Right.
or,
Kind of
some
the
A24.
machinery,
Yeah.
right? Kind
Yeah.
of yeah, the
Netflix.
infrastructure to make that
Hmm.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this is a really quality film. And I guess the one advantage of streaming is I think that it can be a way for these films to get eyeballs on
Yes,
them, that
exactly.
if they're, free or available, or part of a streaming service, it can be a way of kind of getting more people to see them. I mean, I wish I could have seen this on the big screen
Yeah.
because I think that would have been so cool. But
Ditto.
I thought this movie was really lovely. I really enjoyed it.
You know, I did too. It was really an enjoyable watch, and I was really wowed by. I think what it was a real standout for me was the animation, of course, and the music,
Hmm.
and then there was some real emotion
Yeah.
to it, which some very authentic emotion, which
Hmm.
I liked. And then I am such a sucker for father son stories,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
but I got to tell you, just to get it out of there, Rachel. I mean, it's not. Maybe this isn't fair. But I felt like I was watching this. This was a better version of Strange World than Strange World.
Mm. Yeah, no, I mean, there's no question. I mean,
There
and
was some similar themes, and I thought that this film did them so much better.
yeah, and I'm getting a little tired of the generational trauma narratives that we've been getting from Disney, especially. I feel like what they lose their power if that's all we're getting, if that's the only stories we're hearing. And so I think this one, it has a lot of those themes, but you don't feel heavy watching this
No,
movie.
you don't at all. There's enough
Mm.
whimsy and fantasy in it that I think that really helped
Mm-hmm.
it. As
Yeah.
far as not being so heavy or
Mm-hmm.
really even a downer.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it is directed by Yusuke Hirata,
yeah, do you know this
and
director?
I don't.
See,
He was new to me, and then it
I
was,
saw that Godzilla movie that he was involved with, that Shin Godzilla. I'm trying to remember
oh
where I
yeah,
saw it,
that was fun.
but yeah, I know that that's one that I had seen.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. I know him better than, well, let's see. He does visual effects.
Yeah,
This is his first direction. I guess he's been in visual effects.
Yeah, so the Godzilla credit was a visual effects credit, wasn't it?
Yes, CG animator. And then I also saw one that he was an animator for a movie called Harmony, which is one I've thought about doing for obscure animation one of these days that I liked. It's kind of a dystopian type of story where people have like so many points that for doing, like, if they're perceived as positive or negative, then people can give them points. And I it's been a long time since I saw it, but I just remember thinking it was beautiful and very interesting and an interesting story. So it's one I've thought about doing from time to time. Maybe one of these days we'll do it.
Yeah.
But he worked on that, so I have seen that. So, and he was also an animator for Children of the Sea, which is another one that I've seen and that I enjoyed. So this was his directorial debut, and I'd say it was a very strong directorial debut. Yeah. Yep. And the screenplay was by Akira Nishino. Sorry, people are pronouncing people's names terrible. But this was based on his children's book, picture book, evidently. And it sounds like it's had quite this legacy, because not only do you have this animated film, but there was a play and a musical.
Yeah, and a musical.
According to Wikipedia, which I would love to see that.
I was looking at all that stuff too, like, what?
Yeah.
Let's see this musical version.
And I'm dying to see these Studio Ghibli musicals. Have you seen those? Over the clips and stuff?
I'm hoping to go see that Spirited Away.
Yeah.
One that's opening, that's going to be playing next month.
Yeah, so G Kids isn't, I wasn't sure when it was, but I will definitely have to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I believe it's the end of April, Rachel. I could be wrong.
I can't wait.
Or it might be May, so but I was studying the Studio Ghibli Fest schedule for the year.
And there's also I think in London they're doing there's a Totoro show.
Yes,
that they're doing. Oh, I would love to see that so much.
Yes,
so much. So yeah, it kind of reminds you of something like an early Don Bluth, I think, kind of project. This POUPELLE of Chimney Town. With maybe like a little Ralph Bakshi. That has a vintage feel to it, I think.
Oh, I think so too. Which I thought was a very interesting artistic choice. And because, you look at the characters and you're like, oh yeah, this is anime, but there's still something different. I mean, kind of different, I mean, it's not just
I could have believed that this is a European animated film if somebody hadn't told me, because I don't think it, I mean, it's frustrating to me because people it doesn't have like the big eyes and the
they're only medium.
You expect with anime.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the frustrating thing, is that people just, I feel like there's a lot of people that dismiss anime and all the reference that they really have is like Pokemon, Digimon. There's nothing wrong with those, but I feel like it's so much richer. There's so much, everything from Princess Kaguya, as far as design styles. There's so much, Princess Mononoke, Akira, Ghost in the Shell. I mean, these are very different in tone, feel, style.
Yeah.
And I just wish that people could be more open-minded about it.
Yeah.
But the little summary for this movie is: a factory town is covered by chimney smoke, and as the townspeople haven't seen the sky in centuries, They no longer believe that stars exist. A chimney sweep and a friendly monster named Popel decide to prove that stars are real. Another, I actually haven't seen it, but I just know about it, is the musical Urinetown, which is also kind of a dystopian.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of made me think of that at times. But yeah, I just loved the whole premise, and it made for easy, corny, but lovable moments about, don't give up, keep looking at the stars, kind of a
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then,
Exactly.
yeah. And so you also have this whole thing in Halloween Town is kind of an element of the story. And what I read, there's a really great article with the director.
That's the one you shared with me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
And he says in Japan, Halloween is more of a cosplay event. But the day after, all that is left is garbage across town. So the film became framed around Halloween. We decided to change the style to make it more Japanese. So I liked that. I liked the colors are so bright, and everything was kind of Halloween Town was a lot of fun.
I thought so too. I love the bright colors. I
Yeah.
thought those were although I got to tell you that first, after the opening scene, and then we come upon that group of I don't know if you call them trick or treaters or whatever, just the Halloween kids doing that dance. I felt like I was in an animated decom. You know how that musical number. It's like, oh, and then it got better. I mean, not that it was bad, but just just the whole way it was choreographed and framed and everything. It just reminded me of a decom.
Yeah. Well, I guess they tried to make the movie in 2D to start, and it definitely has that kind of like flash
Yes.
feel to it,
Mhm.
where you feel like the images are kind of on top of the backgrounds
Yeah.
in a way. But he says we actually tried to make this film in 2D, but the facial expressions for Papel were difficult to achieve until we
Yeah.
started doing it in 3D. Likewise, the backgrounds of Chimney Town with its numerous tall buildings and dense crowds surrounded by smoke couldn't be achieved using 2D.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of smoke, and the sort of the lighting does establish the mood. And he says, for afternoon to evening scenes, we changed it to orangish colors. For the night scenes, we minimalized the lighting. That's how we expressed the world of Chimney Town. So I think that was very effective, the
Oh,
way
I do
that they
too.
used the smoke, and because it doesn't feel, because you, like we talked about, it has these bright colors, but there's always this kind of smoke and just sort of this feel that adds sort of a darkness to the scenes, and I think really works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
There's also a sort of a steampunk aesthetic of
Yeah.
the movie. Top hat, our main Lubici is wearing a top hat, and even just the design of the garbage man, Popel, feels very steampunky.
I thought so too. And again, a really interesting decision, but I thought it really worked.
Yeah. And most stuff that has that steampunk aesthetic has been like really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it works better in animation than in live action, but something like the Wild Wild West, or
Yes.
the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, I think it's called.
Yep. Yep.
That they're just notorious flops. Steampunk doesn't really
Yeah. And
translate
the
that well.
steam plug just didn't, it didn't work.
Yeah. And there's these heretics that are uh that are the kind of ruling class, I think. And that is something I was a little bit, could have been better. I was a little bit confused about.
Yeah.
the villains, this kind of ruling class.
Yeah, the ruling class and the industrialists, that's probably for me I don't know if I'd call it criticism, Rachel. It's just what I thought it could have been better.
Yeah.
It detracted from my overall enjoyment of the film.
Yeah. And so Lubici talks about his dad, Bruno, that he would talk about looking for the stars. And then you see this Poupelle, and he's kind of the same thing. And I guess it's the heretics are people like Bruno, and it's the Inquisitors. Sorry, the Inquisitors are the villains. Yeah,
the
villains.
Inquisitors are the villains, and they're like walking around. They're like kind of stormtroopers,
Yeah,
that type of vibe. But yeah, they're not you don't mess around with them.
Yeah. So Nishino, the author, he says the first goal for the film was making a mainstream piece of entertainment that could appeal to all audiences, which meant they couldn't shy away from exploring dark elements in the story. So yeah, that's, I think people might look at this and be like, oh, this is a, really artistic film, but it really is pretty mainstream. I mean,
that's what I thought. This was such a commercially viable film. Just the the pacing and the production design and everything about it.
Yeah. So his mother is involved, and she says to one of the Inquisitors, "You killed my husband. What happened?" She still doesn't know. And Lubici starts to see more and more of his father in Poupelle. And he sets this goal of, we'll show the stars to everyone. And he ends up getting 3 wishes. And then they want to kind of blast away the smoke. And there's this letter that they want to cut people off from the outside world, and that that their family had one job to make sure they don't see the outside world. So there's this, it's kind of in a way like the Lorax, not the movie, which is terrible, but the story.
Yeah.
Or the animated short. Cutting off trying to control the people and cutting off the air and this.
Yeah.
Control them. And then that's when Bruno, he says, "What will you find beyond the smoke?" "The stars." And that was a very exciting, sweet moment. Anytime you got the flashbacks with Bruno, was very sweet.
I know. I love those. Those were really great.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
And then he says, so Poupelle says, "You're just like your father. You see what's up there. And if your father said there are stars, then there are stars." One question I had is, if they hadn't seen them, how would they even know at this point? Because it'd been so many generations. How would they even know what stars are?
Yeah.
Details. I guess maybe they must have had them in books or something like that. Or
yes,
but you wouldn't even know what to look for because you'd never seen one, or even like multiple generations hadn't seen them. But
yeah.
And And then the people start to rebel. They get frustrated with the Inquisitors. And there's this whole sequence where they build this hot air balloon ship.
Yes.
To try to get up to the smoke.
To the yes. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And this was I thought very effective, very well animated, very well done.
Oh, I thought so too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's kind of this whole part where they get into the storm, and it kind of reminded me of speaking of another steampunk movie, kind of reminded me of Treasure Planet. With the way the ships were and stuff.
It really had kind of this Treasure Planet vibe going on with the color palette and and then again, there's some steampunk, in Treasure Planet, and
And so then he's able to Lubici is able to separate himself and get down from the ship, and they basically light there's all this gunpowder or whatever, and they light it up and it breaks up the clouds is the idea. And then they see the blue sky and the shimmering stars, and that was beautiful. They really did a good job of capturing what the stars would be like if you had never seen stars.
Didn't they though? Yeah, speaking of color palette, I know I always find these things that I'm like a broken record, but just those vistas of the stars, that's what I wanted to see on the big screen too. I thought the city was fascinating, but wowza, the interpretation of what the night sky looked like in their world was just gorgeous, just stunning, gorgeous.
Yeah. And I loved that whole scene when Bruno's telling the story and he tells Lucio, don't forget to look up.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
Yeah, it
was really good.
Tender, yeah.
And because you think there's so many reasons to be discouraged, and especially if you were living in this dystopian society,
the world's most depressing environment.
But to never lose hope and to always look up. And so then when the smoke leaves and you see those shimmering stars, it's so beautiful. And it's only then that the Poupelle disintegrates, falls apart, and he just leaves the bracelet, which was the power, from Bruno.
Yeah.
And so
and his heart too, whatever, at least it looked like a heart, that maybe it's representative of his soul, or but it flies up and becomes a star too, and that is lovely. This
really good.
Yeah.
And I watched it again because the second time I'd seen it, and I just think, I wish this is the moment when I wish I was a more powerful influencer than I am, because I'm perfectly happy having my modicum of success and where things have happened. But when you have something that's so good and so few people have seen it, you wish that you had more of a platform to get people to see it. Because I think that a lot of people would really love this movie, and it's beautifully animated. The characters are funny and sweet and delightful.
Yeah,
I love Luigi. He's such a
great character, such a great character. Yes.
Yeah, and Bruno was great. Anytime they go back with Bruno, it's meaningful and well done. And I mean, I thought the dub was fine. I didn't think it was
I watched
great.
that dub too.
Yeah, it could have
did you see the sub the first time you watched? Okay.
But yeah, it's hard to take notes when you're listening to a subbed.
Yeah.
You're watching a subbed thing, because you just have to be paying attention, so you can't.
Right.
So I did watch it dubbed, and it's not like a great dub, but it's sufficient. It's okay.
Yeah, I thought it was serviceable.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good word. So yeah, I I gave it a really high score on Letterboxd. My review, I forget what I gave it on there, but anyway, I think that if people take the time to check it out, I think they'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed it a lot. You know, there was I had some issues with the plot, like we discussed, and they're not huge issues, but it's
Yeah.
just I felt like it detracted from
Mhm.
the film, as I already said. But watch this movie if you know if you like
Yeah.
animation and if you like anime too, or as a gateway
Mhm.
into anime. I think this is
Yeah.
a really good one.
I think so too. I gave it an 8 out of 10 in my review.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah.
I said the animation is wonderful with both the intimacy of 2D and the immersion of CG. It draws you in from the start and never lets go. There was something about the whimsy that had a vintage quality to it, like something Don Bluth would have directed in the 80s. It's the kind of project Dom DeLuise would have voiced back in the day.
Yeah, perfect. Well, and one thing I briefly mentioned in the beginning too, I thought that the soundtrack was terrific.
Yeah.
And Yuta Bando is the name of the of the composer. Yuta worked on Belle. Wrote the music for Belle.
Oh, interesting.
And I can't say that I necessarily distinctively remember like some of the notes or melodies from that soundtrack, but the music was a huge part and really was, I thought, effective in that film. So I guess that answers my question.
Yeah.
But this one, I was wishing I could hear it on the big over the big sound system in the movie theater.
Yeah, it was a really beautiful
lush and
soundtrack. I agree. And not like I love Rad Wimps in Weather With You and With Your Name, but that's very much like a part of the storytelling. Like you learn a lot about the characters and it's just like a big deal. The music, this isn't as overwhelming as that.
No,
but it kind of reminded you of like James Horner.
Yes, exactly. Just like at a big moment, there's this big, musical number, and it really worked.
Yeah. Well, if you listen to this, I highly recommend checking out this one. It's a really good film, and I'm so glad that you agreed to talk about it with me.
Wow, thank you as always for introducing me to such cool movies, Rachel. So grateful.
Yeah. Well, where can people find your content?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Yeah, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And I think this is actually our 90th obscure animation, which
Are
is
you
unbelievable.
Kidding me? Rachel. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's just been so fun. I just don't even think about how many we have done. Anyway, well, it's just an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. So let us know if you have any suggestions of what you'd like us to talk about for this. Sometimes we call it different names because people get their panties in a bunch about, if I say something's obscure. But sometimes I call it indie animation. Sometimes I just call it talking animation. But it's really fun. I look forward to it every month. So if you have any suggestions, you're listening for what we should talk about, please let us know. And please, if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group, which I feel like a lot of people don't know about. And I feel like I talk about it all the time. So I don't know what else I can do, but it's really fun. You get to be part of the Facebook group and you get to be part of watch-alongs every month. And every week I have exclusive reviews just for the patrons for the AFI Passions Project. So it's definitely, I think you get your bang for your buck with a patron. So please take a look at that. And then we also have the merch store. You can get #Animation Junkie shirts. So take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.